Oh yeah, Goodwood. The Festival of Speed is the mecca for car nuts, and every year icons of the past and modern engineering marvels take on the notorious Hillclimb to determine who's boss. In 2022, the McMurtry Spéirling shattered the records with a time of 39 seconds, with Max Chilton at the wheel going more than 2 seconds quicker than Nick Heidfeld in the McLaren MP413 and almost a second quicker than the VW IDR driven by Romain Dumas. The instant torque of the electric motors and, most importantly, active aerodynamics, it's a fan car, helped to reach the top of the leaderboards. The Spéirling, what a track monster! Today I'm trying to beat it, with a car I built from scratch, with a car that does not use electric motors or fans for downforce. The old school way. I will put my very overpowered German engineering skills to the test. How hard can it be? However, as I don't have unlimited budget, let me introduce to you Automation, the car company tycoon game, where you can build almost any car that you can imagine, as long as it is old school. No hybrids or electrics, no electric fans. We can then export our creation to BeamNG and drive it on a recreation of the Goodwood Hillclimb track. How awesome is that? And this is it. The Kugelblitz 2000 Kompressor. It's tiny and let's say the design is following the function. But let's take a deeper look at the technical specs. So for the car body we choose something very tiny, very small, 2 meter wheelbase, around 3.5 meters in length, so that the car ends up very lightweight and corners well and goes fast in a straight line. The chassis, it's a carbon fiber monocoque so that it's light, carbon fiber panels as well. And I go for front engine because those tend to be more stable and easier to drive in BeamNG, and also because in standstill it's front heavy, and under massive acceleration I want to have a 50-50 weight distribution, so the dynamic weight shift to the rear hopefully will cancel out the front heaviness of this layout. Then we have a double wishbone front and pushrod rear. So these are basically the two options that help to maximize the cornering potential and are also quite lightweight. And then for the engine, I went with a V6 configuration because it's compact. We can fit a lot of engine into a very small engine bay. So V6 is short, almost squarish, and fits very nicely. And of course, what you see here also is, it looks like a turbo, but it's actually a supercharger. And a massive radiator there and nice spaghetti exhaust. We have a dual overhead cam setup with 5 valves per cylinder, 3 on the intake side, 2 on the exhaust side. So also just to try to get as much air into the engine as possible and to make the max use of our fuel. So then the internals. We have a billet steel crank, titanium conrods, nice golden color there, and quite heavy pistons because we will have a lot of power and they need to take the heat, and very lightweight pistons just don't have enough material to absorb the heat and not to melt. And overall capacity is 2 liters. That's why 2000 and compressor for supercharger. Quite aggressive cam, it revs up to 8800 RPM and has variable valve timing just to have a nice wide power band. Although you might see in a few minutes that it's not really necessary. I might have been able to get rid of that. For the supercharger, here we have a centrifugal one. The one supercharger will compress the intake air, and you see that it's driven by the belt, not by the exhaust gases, and that's why it's a supercharger and not a turbocharger. So the overall setup is quite aggressive, and here I went for massive quality so that it just produces the boost. Direct injection per cylinder, and now interesting, this thing runs on nitromethane. There are some fuels that would allow to extract even more power from the engine, but somehow I also need to be able to handle the car in the end. We have the race intake, basically this bit here, and the spaghetti exhaust, as I said. Overall, this yields us 600 horsepower from a 2-liter engine, and as I said, it's possible to push this to 800 at least, but yeah, then the car becomes a bit uncontrollable. And that's because our car overall weighs only 570 kilograms. Again, here it's possible to build this even lighter, but I need to have some weight on the wheels to be able to drive this. The McMurtry has 1000 horsepower for 1000 kilograms, and we are a little bit above that power to weight ratio. And now the big brain solution, the gearbox, is CVT, which means we will have unlimited gears. And therefore also the torque curve is not important, because the gearbox will choose the ratio accordingly. And in that way we don't get any gear shifts and don't lose any drive, so it's almost as good as an electric motor. Top speed estimation is 274 kilometers an hour, because we also have massive drag. I have huge wing on there, maybe we can also show that. So I have one wing, but I stacked multiple of those later on, as I saw that I need more traction. And also the front lip, we have around 10 front lips, 15, and 5 rear wings, because we just need the grip in BeamNG later. Yeah, for the wheels we use soft race tires, of course, 265s, quite tiny wheels. I had to choose quite heavy rims, because too light wheels don't really work in BeamNG, or tend to break at least. And here on the aero front we will get a lot of downforce, but only at speed, so at around 250 kilometers an hour we have the downforce that the Spéirling has at standstill. So on lower speeds I definitely have a big disadvantage, which means we have a similar power to weight ratio, but overall less power, probably a lot more drag, and in slow corners we are slower, which means we have to make up for that with a little bit of insanity on the driver's end, but I will manage that. Interior is just one race seat, nothing else in there. I also want to say we only have ABS, no traction control, no ESC, because I don't like those. I want to drive this car on my own. No safety, who needs that? Except for the roll cage that I placed. And just for you to know, suspension setup, pretty basic, quite stiff, maybe could be even stiffer. And that means from a 0 to 100 time, or 0 to 62 miles per hour, we have 1.6 seconds, which is quicker than the Spéirling as well. I think this one has 1.8 seconds. Top speed, as I said, 274. Here in automation, I think the original Spéirling had around 250, but in BeamNG this is a lot lower, because all of the individual wings will produce much more drag. So that's about it. That's our contender. And in order to head to the track, you can just click export, and then here on export, and it will automatically put this into BeamNG within a few seconds. And there we are. Let's go. So the car I've shown you in automation was already the result of several iterations. It is so hard to get something drivable out of this, and I had to reduce the power, I had to add more downforce, and still the car doesn't really feel like a proper car. The steering is not very responsive. I always have to lift off in front of a corner so that the weight gets transferred to the front, so maybe the front downforce is just not enough, and I have too much downforce in the rear so that the front is lifted up a bit always. And also what you see here is that the engine is becoming hot very quickly, so no revving in standstill, just step on the gas whenever the light is green. And then it goes like hell. Lift off in front of the corner, try to get some grip onto the front wheels, and back on gas. And we're driving against a wall of air here, only 200 kilometers an hour, maybe 220 on the back straight. In automation they said 280, and then we have to lift off again for the next corner. Ouch! That was hard. Turned in too early, I guess. Oh, this is so hard. You have to be so quick. I mean, you have to have very quick reactions and just be very precise at these speeds in the corners. This is totally not my driving style. I like to steer slowly, smoothly, but here you have to be razor sharp. So let's try this corner again. Wheel on the grass. Oh no! My wheel, bring it back. And it's gone. One more try. Come on. This stupid corner, this stupid car, it's driving me insane. It's the best safety feature when the roll cage leaves the car first. Damn.
Approximately 10 hours later.
After way too many tries, I finally did a run and reached the finish without any damage. This is it, enjoy without commentary. A 38.7, I'll take that, 3/10 quicker than the McMurtry. Damn, this was hard. And I only could do it because we're in the game and we don't have to worry about the car, about the spectators, about anything, about our own life maybe, yeah. Unlike my previous real-life racing experience I had a few weeks ago, this time we could approach the limit from the top again, top down. First make the mistakes, then try to get one run out of many runs that finally works. Because of that, because we can drive insanely quick and with insanely high risk, I was able to beat the McMurtry. But overall, this challenge really showed me that the Spéirling is a true marvel of engineering. It is insanely quick and I have no idea how Max Chilton pulled that off. I know the Spéirling probably was 20-30 kilometers an hour quicker in a straight line, but still you have to carry so much speed in the corners. Yeah, it's absolutely insane that Max Chilton pulled this off in real life. What's also true is that the Spéirling has a successor, the Spéirling Pure, and this is even quicker. It didn't have a timed run at the Hillclimb yet, and I don't know if they ever will allow it, because it's just insanity. But we'll see, maybe during this Festival of Speed? Who knows? If you enjoyed this, check out my other videos where I do some sim racing but mostly build fictional cars and whole car companies in the automation universe. But for now, thank you all for watching, have a nice Festival of Speed and bye bye.